About 9 months ago, after I had had my hands on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold for a decent amount of time, long enough to, if I'm not mistaken, already have declared it my favorite foldable phone so far, I posted a video called My Google Pixel 10 Pro Fold Wish List. And I went over several things that I really wanted to see happen with the sequel to this device. And I've done this with many devices in the past, but what I never do is I never go back and revisit them and see if my wish list was fulfilled. So in this video, with the 10 Pro Fold looming on the horizon, a launch October 9th coming up soon, let's look at my wish list and see exactly how close Google got. And the first thing that I had on my wish list was improvements to the multitasking capabilities. Specifically, what I was looking for was a third app in split screen and the ability to have floating windows. As I'm sure by now everyone is well aware, on the Pixel Fold devices, you can only have two apps. This is basically what it looks like. We are using my Galaxy Z Fold 7 as a stand-in because it can do two apps side by side, but can also do more than that. So what I'm asking for from Google is more than that. Now, there's a couple of different ways that they could go about doing a third app. We've seen different styles. I would literally settle for anything. On Samsung devices, you can have a third app pretty much anywhere you want, and it's going to exist as a little smaller, sort of half-sized app on one side above or below another one. I would be totally fine with even that sort of basic capability. Of course, if they adopted something more akin to Open Canvas or Boundless View, I would also not turn that down at all either. I also did mention wanting floating windows. I probably want this more than I want that third app in split screen. This would be really, really useful for a lot of different things for me, and that was my wish list. What is Google delivering? Neither of those things. We have seen no talk of these things happening anytime soon. There have been rumors of some floating window things happening that go back for months and months and months, but the 10 Pro Fold is not launching with any of this stuff. The only thing that it is adding is the 90-10 split, which is this thing where you have a full screen app and then another full screen app, and you can jump back and forth between them like this. And that is very useful when it comes to switching back and forth between two apps that you don't want, to fully refresh. A lot of applications, if you just swipe along the bottom to quickly switch, the app that goes out of focus might refresh when you open it back up. This kind of prevents that from happening in most apps, so that's good, but I would say wish list in this instance, not fulfilled. The next item on the list is actually very surprising that it is being fulfilled. I asked for a Samsung DeX style desktop mode, and shockingly, that is a thing that is currently happening. No, I'm not sure if this is actually just fully functioning straight out of the box, but it is a thing that is functioning in the Android 16 QPR1 beta, and we've actually moved on to the QPR2 betas. So I assume if it's not something you can enable in developer options, it is something that should be coming very, 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 very soon when the stable version of QPR1 launches, which could happen pretty much at any time now. So I will say that, shockingly, this is one I did not think was going to happen. Desktop mode, I'm going to say wish list fulfilled, or at least close enough. Next up on my list was the wish that Google would change from their apparent path with these foldable devices and use improved camera hardware, a bigger primary sensor with larger pixels for better low-light photography and video performance. Instead, they have switched to a very, very, very similar sensor as last year. Depending on how it's being cropped, it might be a little bit smaller. It might wind up being basically the same size as last year's sensor. I think that performance is probably going to be better year over year just because of the computational photography enhancements that Google is known for. But my wish was to pack in a bigger, better sensor like we have seen used in other foldables, and I think quite objectively, Google did not bother to do that. They've left everything the same with the primary sensor changing, but not really improving in any real way. Next up was faster charging. I was hoping to see 35 watt, 45 watt, like proper not even proper compared to some of the Chinese OEMs. Keeping expectations somewhat reasonable, proper fast charging, and that, like the last category, not really going to be a thing. As you can see from this spec sheet, we are looking at up to 50% of a charge in half an hour using a 30-watt charger, and then we do have 15-watt wireless charging. It's not terrible, but compared to, Honor and Oppo and OnePlus, it's quite slow, and it does fall short of my wish list. Which, if we're being honest, might have been a little bit unrealistic given that we are talking about Google. Sticking with things that did not happen, but maybe this time at least for a somewhat decent reason, we have my wish of a lighter weight device. The Pixel 9 Pro Fold is like almost 260 grams. The 10 Pro Fold is also almost 260 grams, but they did do a couple of things which might allow me to ignore this one. They increased the size of the battery to a little bit over 5,000 milliamp hours, which is pretty cool. But even cooler than that, they have built in a MagSafe ring. So I don't have to put a ring on the back of the device. I don't have to use a case. I can just snap my accessories, my charging stuff, my bricks to the back of the device. Pixel Snap is a thing, and it's definitely one of the selling points of that phone for me. So while I can't give them this wish list item, at least they have a good reason for having not done it. Next up, I did also want a smaller hinge area. The space on the left of this screen where the hinge is quite large, it's quite thick, and Google did this one. They did shrink that down, and that made the cover display 6.4 inches now, so I got to give them that one. They did exactly what I wanted there. And these next two, I don't know the answer to just yet, but they both involve this inner screen. So the first one is the bezel itself. I guess both of these are kind of related to the bezel. So the bezel itself around this device is weirdly prone to accumulating these tiny little micro scratches, and it just doesn't look good. Make this out of a better material, and I don't know if that's happened. The Fold is not out in people's hands to see how that's going to actually occur or not occur. And the last item, also related to the bezel needs to stand out from the screen a little bit further, because with the way it is now, when this device is closed, each half of the screen seems like it can basically touch the other half. So if something small got stuck in there, got dropped in your device, and then you closed it, that could be a problem. And it also causes, when you open it, sometimes you can hear there's two sides of the screen basically peeling apart, and then sometimes you get these little lines and like even sometimes scratches right here and right here on the screen where they're touching, and that is, to me, like an obvious problem to solve. Just make the bezels a little bit thicker so that it stances the screen apart a little bit. Really strangely, Samsung didn't used to have this problem, but with the Z Fold 7, now they do. You're hearing reports of what people on Reddit are calling angel wings, where they open it up and you hear it kind of peel apart, and then you have these marks on the screen. Now, typically, you can just wipe them off, but given enough time, they will start to kind of generate into little abrasions and scratches. It's not something you can see when the screen's on and you're using the device, but off axis, it can be a problem. Something that if you spent almost $2,000 on a phone, you don't want to see happening just from using the phone. So again, those two I have to kind of set aside. I don't know if they've happened or not. Two, maybe 2.5 things that we can count actually on that wish list, and that this might sort of help explain to some people partially why I'm not like super jazzed about the 10 Pro Fold. It just didn't do many of the things that I wanted it to do. Let me know in the comments down below what you wanted to see and how well this aligned with your own personal wish list. Guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.